A whisper that crawled across Beijing's concrete veins, slipped beneath closed doors, and wrapped itself around the name. Yu Menglong. Like a cold finger dragging across glass. They said his fall wasn't an accident. They said it wasn't fate. They said it was written in USB drives. Buried in lies. Encrypted in secrets that should have never seen the sun. And on that night, the night fans still call the midnight collapse. Every camera flickered, every streetlight hummed. As though even the electricity could sense that something monstrous was unfolding. The world remembers the collapse. But the truth, the real truth, begins long before Yu Menglong hit the ground. It begins in a room with no windows. Only one desk. And a single blinking flash drive. That held more danger than dynamite wrapped in silk. That USB drive, the one investigators keep describing, with shaking hands and lowered eyes, didn't appear out of nowhere. Someone planted it. Someone wanted it found. And someone wanted Yu Menglong erased. The way a sentence disappears when you strike the delete key too hard. Witnesses claim they saw him pacing that night. A silhouette trapped inside his own shadow. A man carrying a secret heavy enough to snap the soul in half. His phone buzzed again and again. A rhythm of warnings in the dark. Every message shorter, sharper. Each one cutting deeper than the last. Do not open the file. They're watching. It's already too late. But he opened it. Of course he opened it. Curiosity was always his fatal flaw. The star too bright to dim. The heart too brave to hide. The file didn't contain words. It contained videos. Surveillance stitched together. By someone who knew how to hide in plain sight. Grainy footage. Late-night exchanges. Figures with faces blurred like ghosts. Money changing hands. Arguments behind studio doors. A timeline meticulously arranged. To prove one horrifying narrative. Someone had been setting Yu Menglong up. Not for failure. Not for scandal. But for a fall so carefully engineered. It could only be called murder wearing a mask. They say the room shook when he reached the last clip. Not from an earthquake. But from the weight of what he saw. Because the final video wasn't a stranger. It wasn't an enemy. It wasn't a jealous rival. It was someone he trusted. Someone who had keys to his apartment. Someone who knew his schedule to the minute. Someone who laughed with him. Worked with him. Claimed to protect him. The man in the footage wore a cap low over his eyes. But you can hear the voice. Clear as a scream in an empty hallway. Once he takes the fall, we move. Make sure the drive is on him. Fans later heard that clip and felt their hearts crumble. Because betrayal doesn't feel like a knife. It feels like gravity suddenly giving up. The next events remain the most debated sequence in modern entertainment history. Some call it coincidence. Some call it sabotage. Some say it was fate twisting its claws. But those closest to the truth call it exactly what it was. A premeditated collapse scripted in digital ink. When Yu Menglong left the building that night, rain started to fall. Thin at first. Then heavy enough to sound like drumbeats on asphalt. As if the sky was warning him to turn back. But he kept walking. Hood up. USB drive clutched in his hand like a final confession. He didn't see the black car. He didn't see the figure trailing behind. He didn't see the phone camera recording every step. As though the entire city had become a stage. And he was walking into his final act. But someone else did. A street vendor. Packing up dumplings under a trembling neon light. Watched everything unfold. With eyes wide enough to catch the truth. And terrified enough to stay silent. He remembers the car door cracking open. Not fully, just enough. He remembers the shadow leaning out. He remembers the whisper. Now. And then. Chaos. Footsteps racing. A shove. A scream swallowed by the storm. A body hitting metal. Then concrete. Then silence. A silence so loud. Witnesses years later still hear it. Echoing under their ribs. Authorities rushed in like a tidal wave. 10 minutes too late. They found the USB drive. Half crushed beneath his arm. As if he tried to protect it even when breath was fleeing. They found his phone. Screen cracked. Messages blinking like dying fireflies. They found no attacker. Only the absence of one. Carved into the rain like an unfinished signature. And that's when the lies began. Lies wrapped in official statements. Press releases polished like mirrors. Carefully crafted phrases designed to blind the public. Tragic accident. Misstep in the rain. No evidence of foul play. But there was evidence. There was too much evidence. Evidence that sparked like electricity. Every time investigators tried to bury it, one anonymous insider, the one everyone calls the Sparrow, leaked what he found on backup servers. Timestamps that didn't match. Security footage tampered with. Audio clips spliced like an amateur cover-up. And a missing window of 13 minutes. That experts keep calling the vanished gap. 13 minutes. Long enough for a life to end. And a lie to begin. Long enough for files to disappear. And truth to dissolve like ink in water. Long enough for the person behind the betrayal to slip into the night, leaving only the USB drive behind. As a silent scream for justice. What made the story explode worldwide weren't just the facts. It was the contradictions. The puzzle pieces that fit too perfectly. And those that didn't fit at all. Fans dove into online archives. Comparing footage frame by frame. Building timelines. Interviewing witnesses. Rewatching his last live stream for hidden clues. As though Yu Menglong himself had left a coded message no one had solved yet. And maybe he did. Because 15 seconds before the live stream ended, the lights behind him flickered. He glanced over his shoulder. Not scared. Not startled. But aware. Fans still replay that moment. The slow inhale. The shift in his eyes. The tiny nod. As though he knew the storm was coming. And was choosing to face it. The USB, the lies, the betrayal. They weren't accidents. They were chapters in a script. Someone thought they had perfected. But murder never stays hidden forever. Not when millions of voices turn into a single roar demanding answers. The world began connecting dots that authorities tried desperately to scatter. The figure in the video. The phone messages. The black car. The vanish of 13 minutes. The too clean statements. The silence of people who once spoke too loudly. And slowly, shockingly, inevitably, one person's name began to circle around the case. Like a hawk around prey. A man with access, opportunity, and motive carved deep into his history. A man who had everything to gain from Yu Menglong's absence, and everything to lose from the truth held inside that USB drive. Authorities, backed into a corner by public pressure, finally reopened the investigation. Not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. The lies had cracks now. Cracks wide enough for light to pour through. Exposing everything they tried to bury. And when the case reopened, the first thing investigators examined was the broken USB. Inside, buried in corrupted data and half-destroyed files, they found something new. Something no one expected. A hidden folder, sealed behind encryption so advanced. Experts had to rebuild the algorithm backward to unlock it. And when they did, they froze. Because inside that folder was the real final video. The complete version. The one that didn't cut off. Before the reveal, the man in the cap slowly lifted his face into the light. No blur. No distortion. No guesswork. A face Yu Menglong trusted. A face fans adored. A face the world never suspected. And the final thing he said on the tape, the final thread that tied every lie together, was a line that still haunts the case. Once he falls, so does the truth. But truth didn't fall. Not completely. Not forever. Because the world caught the USB drive when Yu Menglong couldn't. And the lies that were meant to erase him became the very fuel that turned his story into a global fire. Now, the investigation is shifting. The suspects are scrambling. The silence is cracking. The same whisper that began the storm now grows louder, sharper, unstoppable. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't fate. This was murder built from USB drives and lies. And the world, the fans, the journalists, the investigators, are no longer asking if someone killed him. They're asking who. And they're getting closer. Closer than the killer ever imagined. Closer than the lies can hold. Closer to the moment when the truth, the real truth, finally rises from the place where Yu Menglong fell. The truth inside that first USB drive didn't just flicker, it burned. A digital flame that refused to die, even as rain soaked the streets and buried the night in silver smoke. And as investigators replayed that cursed video again and again, they realized something chilling. Part 1 wasn't the beginning. It was the trigger. The video, grainy yet sharp in all the wrong places, began with Yu Menglong entering a quiet elevator lobby, the camera humming like it knew what was coming. The sound of his footsteps echoed off the tiles, too calm for the danger he was walking into. And then, just as he reached the final door, the tape glitched, once, twice, like a heartbeat skipping. When the footage stabilized, the figure in the cap appeared. One step forward. One tilt of the head. One moment that would rewrite everything fans believed about loyalty. He dropped the USB drive on the floor like it was a bomb wrapped in plastic. Then he said that fatal sentence, the one that shattered the illusion of safety. Once he takes the fall, we move. Make sure the drive is on him. But what investigators didn't reveal at first, and what Part 1 hinted at only indirectly, was the sound in the background. Most people missed it. Even the technicians didn't catch it until they enhanced the audio to its final frequency. A click. A metallic slide. A faint whisper of movement. Someone else was in the room. Not the man in the cap. Not Yu Menglong. Someone standing directly behind the camera. You can hear their breathing, shallow and steady, like someone trained for silence. Someone waiting. Someone watching. And when you finally picked up the USB from the floor, hands trembling, heart racing, you can hear that hidden figure inhale sharply, almost excited, almost hungry for the outcome. But the most terrifying moment of the entire clip was the last 20 seconds. When the man with the cap walked toward the exit, he didn't turn left, the path eyewitnesses originally believed he took. He turned right. Right into a hallway with no exit. No door. No stairwell. No reason to exist except for one. It was a blind spot. A dead zone where cameras couldn't reach. A place designed for vanishing. Investigators fast-forwarded. He never came out the other side. He simply disappeared. And that was when the panic truly began. Because if the figure in the cap wasn't caught on the building's external surveillance, internal staircase feeds, or parking garage recordings, then someone had removed that evidence too. Someone with access. Someone who knew they'd be watched. Someone who understood exactly which cameras to erase and which ones to leave behind to shape the narrative. The drive wasn't left behind by accident. It was planted deliberately, to scare him. Or to lure him. The continuation of Part 1 reveals the full gravity of the trap. When Yu Menglong left the building, holding the USB like a live wire, investigators later reconstructed his path through reflections caught in shop windows, raindrop distortions on passing taxi dashboards, and a streetlight's flicker captured by a teenager's live stream. Piece by piece, second by second, they assembled his final walk. And what they found was horrifying. A figure followed him. Not too close. Not too far. Just enough to stay invisible unless you knew exactly what to look for. A faint silhouette reflected in puddles, shifting only when you shifted. A shadow gliding behind him like a second self. But the most chilling detail? The shadow wasn't human-shaped. It moved wrong, shoulders too still, head too fixed, posture too controlled. Someone trained. Someone professional. Someone employed not to chase him, but to guide him. Guide him straight into the rain-heavy alley. Straight toward the point of collapse. Straight into the jaws of the story they wanted the world to believe. Investigators slowed the footage. Frame by frame. And that's when they saw it. A hand reaches out from the darkness. Not to push him, but to snatch the USB from his grip at the final moment. And you fought back. He jerked his arm. He stumbled. He collided with a slick metal railing. His knee buckled. His balance twisted. He slipped on water that looked suspiciously like it had been poured, not rained. The attacker lunged again. You turned. He lost footing. And then. The fall. Not the gentle collapse described in official reports. Not the accidental misstep repeated in the polished statements. This fall was violent. This fall was forced by panic. This fall was born from a desperate attempt to keep the USB from the enemy's hand. A final frame, barely captured by a passing car's dash camera, shows his fingers gripping the drive with so much force his knuckles turned white. He didn't let it go. Even as he hit the ground. Even as his body gave way. Even as the attacker, silhouette warped by rain, realized they had failed to retrieve the one thing that mattered. That failure explains what happened next. A figure, frustrated, frantic, kneels beside him. Not to help. Not to check if he was alive. But to try prying the USB from his fingers. They couldn't. His grip was locked by instinct, by fear, by defiance. So the attacker whispered something, low and vicious, before vanishing into the storm. For weeks, investigators hid that detail. But the forensic audio team eventually amplified it. And the whisper was unmistakable. You weren't supposed to fight. That one sentence changed the entire case. Because it proved intent. It proved planning. It proved someone expected you to break, emotionally, not physically. Someone who thought he'd surrender the drive quietly. Someone who underestimated him. Someone who knew him well. After the attacker fled, the alley remained silent for 19 seconds. And then, a second figure appeared. Not the cap man. Not the shadow. A third person. Someone who approached slowly, almost regretfully. Someone who looked at you, still conscious, still aware, with a kind of twisted sorrow. They didn't speak. They didn't move closer. They didn't touch him. They only watched. And then they pulled out a phone. Dialed. Nodded. And walked away. The call lasted 7 seconds. And it was traced directly to a contact saved under a single letter. M? To this day, investigators still refuse to reveal who M is. But insiders claim the identity is powerful enough to shatter reputations, break careers, and expose the mastermind behind the USB. And the lies. And the fall. That was never meant to be survivable.